First of all, I'ma tell you this girl, you a first class pussy, though you a Miss Violent. Your tightness, mama, toast them, girl, I'ma never get do it and I like it, baby. Buy anything you want, me be respond for it. Now breathe up, you make a next one breathe. Take off shit, put on concrete, but you feel like you know damn shit, baby. Yeah. Your boom boom got a melody. Yeah. Your boyfriend could never leave you. Girl, if your pussy good one more time, so girl, if your pussy good one more time, so wife wine, me a big wife wine. Wife wine, me a big wife wine. Wife wine, me a big wife wine.
I true you know you can fuck with the dance up. I just want you to answer. I just want you to answer. Ooh. Girl, if you never fuck me good, I wouldn't have called you back. I would delete your number and move on, move on. But every time you ride my dick, you got me keep coming back. I love when you get your groove on. Baby, you make a fucking in London. Your pum pum nah get abandoned. Smoke weed and listen to the bantan. Jamaica me come from, and a Compton. Happy a fat pussy girl. Make my dick stand. Your pum pum tight and a quicksand. Every time you just get wet for me. And you baby, I appreciate your love, your love, your love. Cause fucking the UK. I appreciate you, girl. I appreciate your love, your love. Let us fuck in the UK. Your love, and a wine right, wine right. Wine punk up the yard. Sip up so them have to get by the corner. I like love, your love, your love. Come let's fuck in the UK. I appreciate you, girl. I appreciate your love, your love. Baby, I'm a fuck in London. The boom boom, I get a bantan. Smoke weed and listen to the bantan. Jamaica me come from and a bantan. Happy a fat pussy and live a prison. But you alone make my dick stand. Your boom boom tight to your good stand. Every time you just get wet for me. I appreciate you, baby. I appreciate your love, your love, your love. Come let's fuck it.
The headphones.
Oh, I had to put my headphones on so I can hear it.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
It's late. I'm tired.
Nah, it's no time right now.
I was up late last night. It wasn't nothing good. It was great, but it wasn't nothing like that.
Don't look at me, Teresa. You don't judge my mind. Okay.
Well, I tried for that.
I'm open.
It just didn't happen.
That's all. Okay.
Rena napped. She napped. Well, we were leaving at 10, and then the next thing I know, it was 2:00 in the morning, and I was like, okay, we need to go home.
Hey.
It was 4 more hours we stayed. Literally, it was 10 something when we were trying to leave, and then we.
That's all right. That's what happens when y'all party animals. That's what goes on. All right, let's get 5 seconds of silence. Trip Digital Radio, Sound Art Expression, and LA Style Magazine. Going on. Oh man, it's who doing? I got Miss Marquita Monet. She's still with me.
Yes. Hi, everyone.
Oh, look at her, just doing her thing.
Extra.
I got the Raven Dave. He's hanging.
What's going on?
What up, Raven Dave?
I love it, man. I love it.
Rave, not right.
There you go. Man, it's good to see you. You're on these little turntables over there. What's going on?
That's your girl, Ashley.
Yeah, she is.
Good.
How you doing?
Love you, Ashley.
I'm good, chilling.
Oh, man. It's been a minute since I got to hear you. So, but you've been doing work on behind. It's
I've
been
been behind
awesome.
the scenes,
And
that's
killing
what I
it.
like
Thank
to
you.
be.
Yes. Thank
Dark
you,
side.
Ashley.
That's the dark side. No, it's been really good, man. But like I say, man, it's not about us. It's about our guests.
That's right.
And today we have a beautiful situation. We have the lovely Miss Whitney Davis Houston. Yo, definitely. Oh, wait. We just got but Whitney, guess who just come in? Miss Trisha Love just jumped in there. She just jumped in. It's all good.
She did MIA, Miss VIP, LA style.
Yeah.
Had to make a business call.
I know. I thought you was off, but babe, I'm really glad you're back once again. So Trisha Love is on, and we got Miss Whitney Davis Houston on the panel today. How are you?
Good.
Dude, scoot up just a little bit so we can hear.
I'm good.
Oh, okay, good. You know, it's a pleasure to have you on and be able to talk to you about some of the things that you do. But let's go back. So we know that you're a lawyer, right? So what kind of law do you study, and what kind of people are you out there helping?
So, for a long time, I did a lot of firm work. I did employment defense work. I kind of worked for House Counsel. I worked for a big firm. I worked kind of all over the place. And I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, okay, you've done this like to death. So it's time for something new.
Right.
Time for something new. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Beautiful. So it's time for something new. And I wanted to go out and create a practice that helped folks that generally I couldn't help working for a firm. The rates at a firm are like $700 an hour or whatever, some insane amount of money. Yeah. And so people would say, I need help. And I'd say, well, I'd love to help you, and then I realized I could do it and do it well and take the experiences that I had and translate that into working for individuals who are just as deserving of legal assistance as anybody else. So that's what I do, and I love what I'm doing right now. I'm having a really good time with it.
Did you ever just go to the pro bono situation within it, or did you not?
So I do. All lawyers do pro bono work, whether you like it or not. But I did pro bono work when I was clerking, and I still do legal work with my nonprofits. Part of what I do, part of the service that I offer when I go to work for nonprofits, is that I do legal work for por gusto, as they say.
So, and I know you're out there, getting these contracts correct with this entertainment business as well. So, you're keeping that right. How long have you been doing that? And
I'm solidly now for about 4 years, and sort of all aspects of it. I try to be artist oriented, producer oriented, the individual side as opposed to the corporate side. I just can't do anything else. I love corporations; they're great. But I don't need to do that. They don't need me, and so I'm happy to be able to be on the other side of that and have a perspective from the other side of that as a result of being in that industry for such a long time. So I get to bring that perspective when I'm helping people because I kind of know how they think because that's what I did for so long. Yeah.
Wow.
And the cool thing about what you're saying is, the part about helping people and that's really what really I wanted to talk about. I've known you for a while now, and you are a blessing in my life, in a lot of things that you do. But I got the opportunity to see you in your element, and you're. I got there a little late because I was a little, whatever. But we won't go into that situation. But
you did good.
There's a nice foundation that you are part of, and I believe you're a director. Is that correct?
I'm one on the board. Yes.
That's correct.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about this amazing situation that you have going on at A New Way of Life.
So, A New Way of Life is an organization founded by Susan Burton, who is I call her fairy goddess. She's an extraordinary woman who was in and out of prisons for 20 years.
Like six sentences, right?
6 sentences. She was in prison for 20 years. She had a drug problem prior to her incarceration. And it was exacerbated by the fact that her son was killed by the police in a car accident, on accident. But she kind of fell into the disease even more deeply. And every time she would come out, there was nothing for her. She'd come out. There was no jobs. There was no place to live. There was nobody there to help her. There was nothing. And so she had nothing. And so she'd go back. And it went over and over again. And finally, she went to the west side of Los Angeles where she got to experience a rehab program. And she said, wow, we don't have this anywhere in our neighborhoods. We don't have anything where you're loved up. Everything is about judgment and about how you're a bad person. And we don't have anything where we love our folks up when they come out. And so she created an organization where literally what she would do is drive up to the jails and say, hey, do you need a place to live? And she'd bring them into her home, and she would love on them and give them the opportunity to get on their feet, offer them drug treatment programs and services. And ultimately, she moved on to offering them jobs. And training and education. And she is this woman who is like a dynamo. So as much as I love that I'm on the board of directors, I really love being in service to her because she is unbelievable. Because after that, her organization, we now have 6 homes. 6 homes. We just merged with another organization called the Harbor Halfway Homes, which are in Long Beach. We just took 2 of their homes over. And so we have 6 homes. And we help women. And not only do we help women, but we also are involved in legislation and changing legislation. Susan's organization was instrumental in Prop 47 and what happened with Prop 47. And now we're working on Ban the Box, where we're trying to get rid of boxes, that the box that allows people to ask you about your incarceration before you're in employment and application, because that's just like saying, okay, so you don't want this job.
Right.
And you can't lie on the application. So just giving folks the opportunity to get in the door, they still have to disclose their situation, but giving folks the opportunity to sell themselves before they're just a piece of paper makes such a difference, Right. So that's kind of where a lot of our focus is right now. Time Done is one of the organizations we work with. Susan also has she has everything. She has a legal services clinic where we sue judicial judicial districts and prosecutors for the wrongful treatment of
what I was going to say is, as you were going into that, I really want to get into that point of you suing and what you guys do and the impact that you're able to make on some of these women's lives. Because if I'm not mistaken, there was 69 women within that were at this a part of this this gala event, and these women were blessed by services that were able to cut these people's sentences down, and some get out, and most of them, I think all of them got out.
So all of the women that are in our organization are out. In some cases, Susan has the ability to help them with their sentences, but largely they are women who apply as they're leaving incarceration. So they will come and say, "Hey, Susan, I want to come," and she says, "Okay, come," and then she gets them on the road, and the road is our homes are homes. They're not halfway houses. She does not allow contracts that force women to have to be, they don't toss the homes with parole agents. She doesn't allow any of that in her homes, nothing. They have kitchens, and they cook, and they have family dinners, and where possible, we bring their children to them. We're also involved in making sure that children are reunited with their parents, with their moms, which is so critical, because children, it's bad enough when children don't have their fathers, but when they don't have their mothers, it is extraordinary. It's such a gap and such a hole. So critical that we put women and their children back together again. And that's one of the biggest things that matter to women when they're coming out.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the thing is that I want my listeners to know right now is that when you are incarcerated, you begin to live a prison life. So since you begin to live that prison life, when you spoke about having a kitchen, right? Having those that we all know,
that's right.
And you don't have that. So you have a prison mentality. So when you come out, you have to be reintegrated to the world itself. And this organization gives these women the opportunity to do that. Empowerment, giving you a chance to stand up and just be able to smile and say, you know what? Okay, yeah, I made a mistake, but damn, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be able to move forward in a positive light.
Good,
and that's what this is really cool about. And I really just wanted to say that as you go on, I'm sorry to cut you off, but it's awesome the work that that they're doing over there.
So it's about second chances. And, one of the things that happens when we talk about the population of returning citizens, which is sort of the nomenclature these days, is that we dehumanize these folks. We treat them like what they did becomes who they are, instead of them just being who they are, people who make a mistake. And particularly for women, they are 95% of the women who find themselves incarcerated are victims of sexual assault, are victims of physical assault, are victims of abuse, are victims of the things that lead to them into that lifestyle. And so, and then the prison system victimizes them some more in really, really oppressive ways. And we kind of just well, you made a mistake, so we're just going to throw you away. And you can't, because this is somebody's child and somebody's mom, and these relationships are real folks who deserve a second chance, because there, but for the grace of God, go all of us. Because I mean, I know that we can all look at experiences that we had in our youth, or maybe in our not so youth, that could have gotten us in trouble. Right. No, I'm saying. I'm just saying. I mean, we
Absolutely.
could all, we are all privileged to have the ability to have resources that prevent us from finding ourselves in these situations. Everybody doesn't have that. Some people are already just hanging on the bottom rung.
Exactly.
And then we kind of like break it off and say, we're not even going to give you any rungs to get back up. You can't get a job. You can't be a hairdresser. You can't be a barber. You can't work with children. And I understand when you're talking about certain types of offenses, but there's no reason why you can't, it should be a uniform bar, no matter what. And so we need to be looking at individualized solutions for these situations.
Yeah.
Right.
Marquita, what was you?
Yeah, I mean, my heart is just touched. Everybody knows that I'm just like missing inspiration. I have to ask you two questions, but the first one is in alignment with what you're talking about right now. What inspired you in this industry? But I'm going to keen in on that a little bit more. If we see a lot of ego. We even have to make sure that we process ourselves daily to make sure that we're not operating in ego and that we remain humble. But what was it? And even even with attorneys in the Hollywood area, we've seen it. And so, but what has touched your heart? What was your experience? It definitely was an experience or something that inspired you to cause you to be so authentically empathetic to these women and these situations. I heard you say, you made the comment about all attorneys do things pro bono. It's almost like that's a mindset or a mentality for you, because I've seen situations where they have not. Okay, so you speak with great humility and with grace. Please share with the audience what touched your heart to be this amazing woman that is sitting next to me that I literally feel chills. Like there's energy. There's energy.
I don't know. I have always believed that we're all the same. And it sounds really trite, but I feel like nobody's having any individual experience. I feel like we're all having a common experience. Wow. And how we treat each other is how I find people to be spectacular. My experience of people is that they're wonderful. Wow. And because that's my experience of them, maybe that's how I operate in the universe. But I just feel like if you treat people with respect and dignity, you get it back. Yeah. You get it back. If you assume the best about folks, you'll find that they won't disappoint you. Whoa. And people tend to live up or down to the expectations that you set for them. So I just assume everybody's decent. And I'm the chick that had $5,000 in cash returned to me in an unmarked envelope. And I knew that it would get returned. I was like, it's going to get returned. Everybody's like, how do you know that? I said, because people are decent. I said, people are decent. I said, well, what would you do? I said, if you found an envelope for $5,000, what would you do it? And 95% of the people are like, I would try to find the owner. Of course you would. Of course you would. Nobody takes $5,000 out of cash for no reason. Something's up. And so if you operate from that place, I find that most people live in that same space. And all the people I surround myself with generally are like that.
You know what?
Tiz is like that.
Yes. Oh my God. We just love
like
Tiz. My heart. So when you were saying that, I was thinking about something that I tell the family, and that is the law of reciprocity. When I speak with teenagers and college students and stuff like that, I always tell them, even if you don't believe in God or whatever your spiritual belief is, the law of reciprocity is a fact. Whatever you sow, you reap. You put an apple seed in the ground. When harvest season comes, you're not going to get a mango. Yep. So whatever you're putting out into the universe, that energy is coming back to you. I appreciate that answer. And another question specifically, I kind of wanted you to make sure that the listening audience that may not be as skilled as you in law or what have you, what specifically is Prop 47? Okay, so Prop 47 is wonderful. Yeah. It's essentially decriminalized much of the drug laws that and started to treat drug laws or drug prohibition as a public health issue as opposed to as a criminal issue. So a number of homes were opened up, drug deferment programs were created, and it essentially stopped treating non-violent drug felons as criminals
because that's not where they belong, and it doesn't help. It just doesn't help. I mean, you cannot criminalize that sort of behavior. Now, you could criminalize behavior that affects other people, and I'm not saying it doesn't affect other people, but generally the person it affects is the person who's doing the thing.
Absolutely.
And the thing about it is criminalizing it sort of magnifies the effect, because we have alcoholism. It's pretty common.
Right.
Know lots of drunks.
Overeating. But
we don't criminalize them. So the level of so the help is available in a different way, in the same way. So what happens with addiction is you end up with the shame of the addiction, and then the shame of the fact that it's criminalized, and then we don't treat them when they're in prison, or they didn't. So Prop 47 created ways for doing that. It also allowed for expungement of felony drug records, and allowed for all kinds of things to sort of normalize folks as they walk through the earth with their situation.
Was that Prop 47 and expungement? Did that occur within the foundation? Some of those ladies.
Well, I mean, they've benefited from them. Some of them benefited from this. A lot of our ladies have done all kinds of crimes. I mean, yes, drug addiction is a part of it, but we have women who have been convicted of murder. We have women who have been convicted of all kinds of crimes, and what matters is how they're going to go out into the world now, because a lot of the women that have been convicted of murder have been convicted of murdering spouses.
Wow.
And it's almost always and it's mostly women of color.
Yeah.
And so, when women of color defend themselves, they're murderers. I mean, that's just the way it is. That's how they're perceived. And so we are. So some of these, I've kind of lost my train of thought, but the bottom line is these plans and these programs help those women along with some of the other stuff. Like I said, like Ban the Box, which allows women to get employment. And really we're in the process. I just drafted the lease for our Project Rebound program, which actually helps men. It's our first program, and it's with Cal State Fullerton. And we are creating a program, a replication program, where we are taking what we do for a new way of life, and we have it at Cal State Fullerton, and they have a home there full of formerly incarcerated folks who are in university and getting their degrees. And it's run by one of the most amazing women ever, who is also formerly incarcerated. She's extraordinary, and she runs the program there, and she was in prison for 23 years. And now she's running a program at Cal State Fullerton, and she's extraordinary. And that's because she got a second chance. That's because somebody saw her humanity and said, let's see what else she has, because people are bigger and more than that. Yeah.
Wow.
I have a question. So I may have missed it previously, but when you were in law school, did you always know that you wanted to work in a field such as this that was primarily giving back and utilizing your career?
That's a really good question.
It sure is.
It's like a really good question. So when I came out of law school, I definitely wanted to be a public defender. I wanted to. Everybody thinks that means you want to get people off. That's not what it means. It means you want to make sure that the system is doing what the system is supposed to be doing. If they're supposed to be in jail, they're supposed to be in jail. But of course, they had a hiring freeze when I got out of law school. So I went to go work for an insurance company that I had clerked for. And then, of course, because I am from LA, I was like, well, I can't afford to take the pay cut now. So I did that for a long time. But I always wanted to have other avenues. And a very, very close family member was incarcerated, and I got to have the experience of being the family member of an incarcerated person, where you're treated like you're a criminal as the family member of an incarcerated person. So that kind of like really pushed me into kind of going in that direction, and really kind of made me realize that this matters. It matters, and every one person who does something makes a difference. Every one person who shows up, every one person who votes at every election, not just for president,
say it again,
votes for legislation that changes this stuff so that we can make the kind of changes that matter.
So you had an experience firsthand that created a quickening in your spirit, or woke you to that. But still at times, and I say this for audience members or people that are listening that have already experienced that quickening in their spirit or that awakening, but still choose not to listen to it. Was there still something impeding you once you knew that you had to do something about it? And if there was, how did you break through and really do what you were supposed to do?
That's like a super deep question.
Making it deep. Yes, honey.
I think I've always been, I'm not really good at tooting my own horn. I'm not. But I've always had a sense of what was right and what needed to be done. And perhaps not in relationships, but in almost every other aspect of my life.
I hear you.
I've always been able to be like, this is what I want to do. This
segue is coming.
No segue. I'm just saying, no shade to the gentlemen. That's the voice that I don't listen to that I should probably have listened to more often. I listen to it now. But yeah, but in terms of my career and in terms of being of service, I think I've always been like that. I've always been.
So you couldn't deny it. It was
no, I was
the
committed
light
to it.
switch went on and you couldn't turn it off.
It's always been a part of who I was. Just a sense that I'm so blessed. You know, two parents. They've been married for 50 years. They like still do it. I mean, they're great. They're like amazing.
Wow.
I have a brother who's been married for 20 years. It's like a super happy.
Love it.
Bill Cosby before all the sexual assault stuff. It's like this Sue Cosby show type lifestyle. So I was very privileged. So I feel like, you know, I could give back and have give that sense in how I operate in the universe.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's amazing.
So I don't know. Oh yeah, I want to know, because you have talked about amazing nonprofit organizations. So I want to know, how can someone support these nonprofit organizations, or how can we, because I'm already amped up, you know, how can we volunteer or support? Can you let us know that information?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you can go to a new way of life.org or anwal.org. You can also go to All of Us or None, which is a grassroots organization that actually goes out. They are actually fighting for legislative change. They are fighting for community difference, and All of Us or None. But the place to go is a newwayoflife.org. You can literally get anything: how to donate, how to help, how to assist. We can always use your money.
Yeah.
We can definitely use your time. You know what? And if you're not sure how you could help, just say, hey, how could I help? Somebody will come up with something for you.
Absolutely.
Trust me. Yeah.
And what is a new way of life? What's next? What are we doing? What do you see coming in this next year, before this next gala event that I will be on time to in the next year? What's coming up?
Like really good question. So right now, like I said, we have just incorporated 2 new homes into our organization. And so that there's a focus there. And there's also, Susan is focused on replication. What we would like to do is create these kinds of programs all over the country. We would like to get away from the punitive, ridiculous, unhelpful, unuseful way that we treat folks when they come out of incarceration. They served their time. That was the punishment. All right. They did their time. They should not lose their right to vote, lose their right to get jobs, lose their right to exist. That's not what you do when you make a mistake. That's someone's child, and you didn't do that with your kids. Imagine if your kid did something, you're like, okay, that's it for you. No more, nothing. Yeah. You're just, this is it. You've blown it. I mean, that's crazy. And so we are trying to create those programs throughout the country. And that's where Susan's focus is right now.
I'm sorry. We're going to have to do triple taps on this one. This is my passion, guys. I am just bananas right now.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And is there any social media as well that goes along with the New Way of Life, or any of the organizations that we can follow to?
So ANWAL is on, ANWAL.org is on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram. Susan Burton is also on Facebook, on Instagram.
Shout out to Susan Burton.
Susan Burton. My fairy goddess. She's my inspiration. I tell her all the time, not by age, but she reminds me of my grandmother, who was another, one of those people who had, in 1972, ran the Optimist Boys Home here as a Black woman. In 1972 was the executive director chair of the board of directors for the Optimist Boys Home in Pasadena, which is extraordinary. But that's the kind of like, I could just do it.
Yeah.
No, we could just do it.
Yeah.
Let's just do it. And that's it.
That's what we got to do. We got to give a
gotta do
shout out to strong women
Yes.
right now, because that's what this is about. It's giving strength to them. And we got some bosses up in here, man, holding it down, man. I'm sorry, Dave, we getting overran up in here, but it's all good.
No, it's a good thing. It's a good thing.
That's all right. Our strength supports you guys.
Absolutely.
We're all working together.
We lift up all the boats.
That's right. That's right.
This is good.
Mhm.
And
Good topics.
it's really awesome to be able to sit and talk to you about these things. And I really hope that our listeners get the opportunity to get out there, go and find out what's going on, really research this, get involved, help, because, this can happen to somebody right next door to you or within your family or anything like that, and you want to have these, this way to help people as they transition into the next phase of their lives coming out. So we thank you for that. Most definitely. So as we go, we always got to find out. And I'm very interested in this since I've known you for a while. I've known you for a while. We have a question that we ask everyone as they're leaving, and we want to say thank you once again for being here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for allowing me to talk about this. It's really, really like
That's what
lights a fire up.
Do you have any desire in your heart to write a book?
We talk about that all the time.
That's what I feel. I was gonna wait until later, but I'm like,
Good call, Trish. I'm
Talk about that all the time. Yeah.
Go for it. If she's feeling that fire right there, that means
It's
go
funny.
for it.
I've talked
like
about
I
that a
almost
lot.
envision almost like memoirs, so it doesn't have to be like a chapter book, like from one. It very well could be, but maybe one of your books that you do can just be like almost like just memoirs. It could just be because individual. I think that's what it's called.
I got stories, girl.
Stories, and
I got stories.
it just takes the reader through those individual, and it could just be a page, or it could be 2 pages to express the experience.
Right. I love that.
Whoa.
And then you don't feel overwhelmed with having to write all these chapters. You just write 2 pages of that experience.
Yes.
Whitney Davis, Houston, LA Style Magazine collabo. That's what's going on right now.
FYI, guys, that's
what's
our
going
girl Trisha Love, who is
That's
the owner of LA Style Magazine.
what's
So she's
going
a
on.
writer. She knows about books, okay, and articles and memoirs.
So it's happening. It's happening right now. I love it.
Love that.
Yes, can't wait. Looking forward to it.
It looks like I'm gonna get
stories.
I'm gonna get all the dirt. It's
The memoirs. Yeah, tell it. Tell what they go through.
My tagline on Twitter is like, I was for many years.
Yeah.
NPR listening, dancing on the tables type of chick.
Wow.
And that's like really me, like in a nutshell, right?
Wow.
Like kind of nerdy and geeky, and yet.
but we'll turn up.
Oh, exactly.
What is NPR?
National Public Radio, like
Oh, okay.
public radio, like super.
Put it out there.
Like,
Yeah, that part.
They're like the
Did
originator
you say
of
what is
podcasts.
NPR?
Yeah.
Like they were on the podcast about 15 years
Like,
ago.
What do you do?
Oh, so it just
Like,
Oh, no,
free
NPR.
Adnan,
Oh,
like
it's
free
just-
Adnan, I mean,
It's
like
like podcasting
old
before
school.
It was
podcasting.
podcasting before podcasting is
Yeah.
podcasting.
Yeah.
All these
Millennial here.
acronyms, it's the acronyms.
know.
It's so many of them.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
So as we go, I just want to ask you one question. We need to know, what is your superpower?
empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Empathy.
Yes.
Definitely. I love it.
The ability to Yes.
Oh,
that's your
man.
superpower.
There's a lot of energy right here. There's a lot of energy
Yeah.
going on in the studio, and we really appreciate you coming by and blessing us with this. And
Mhm.
and we look forward to pushing forward. And as we say, you are now a resident here. So when things are going on, when stuff is going on in real life, you need to come back.
That's
let
right.
us know, bless us, and be able to let the people out there know what
How do you spell that? Because I'm not processing, so that they know.
ANWOL.org. And by the way, we always have our galas the first Sunday in December.
Can you spell it again?
ANWOL.org.
Okay.
Perfect.
Anwal.org. Please,
Anwal.
please,
Okay.
please
Yeah.
hit us up.
Definitely.
Send us your love. Send us your thoughts. Send us your dollars.
Yeah. We hate to go, but we gonna do it.
No.
This is the season.
This is a
This
good
is
one,
the season. Indeed. Be blessed. Thank you very much. Trip Digital Radio and LA Style Magazine. We out. Thank you.
We love you. Sorry.
Baby, we can turn the lights off. Night off. My camera has a night vision. You love to watch yourself, baby, baby, baby. Baby, baby. What is it that drives me crazy? Tease me, baby. This is not boca, my boca. You can turn the lights off. Turn the lights off. My camera has a night vision. Have to watch yourself, baby, 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 baby. Contra la pared, contra la pared, ponte. She is one of those girls that love it. When you take control of it. So para mí, tell him you're busy, put his hands on delete.